Hi, everybody, and welcome to our webinar. My name is Megan Berry. I'm the president of Who's Who in Luxury Real Estate, and I do apologize for our slight delay. We had a little snafu with some permissions and things for our presentation, but we do want to welcome you to this session. This is an LRE partner webinar with our partner Concierge Auctions. We'll be talking about auction education and the certification for agents. We are excited to be having Crystal Avey with us, our COO of Concierge Auctions, as well as Emily as well, highlighting here, helping us out with the slides. Thank you so much. It's a thrill to have you all with us. Are we sorted out with the speaking? I'm just going to talk through this as we get our situation sorted out. Just want to make sure we have Crystal all squared away. Crystal the speaker, not Crystal the guest. We have a guest named Crystal as well.
Yes, I'm on. Can you hear me?
Fabulous. There we are. I think We've got this all figured out. It's funny how with all the things we have at our disposal, no matter what, there's always some kind of little snafu. Thank you so much for joining us, Crystal.
Technical challenge.
Yeah.
That's it.
Excited
well, thank
to be
you
here.
so much for having me today.
Well, I would say just go ahead and take it away. We'd love to hear a little bit more about what you're going to share with us today.
Okay, great. And can everybody see me as well? It's okay if not. The slides are the most important. Okay, well, I might. So thank you again for having us today with Concierge Auctions. Excited to go through this program with you all. And by virtue of taking the program today, then you all have the opportunity to become what we call preferred agents with Concierge Auctions. And we'll go over that in a little bit as well, but it's also just an extra incentive to the webinar. Oh, I'm hearing that people cannot hear me. Did I see that right in the chat? Jamie can? Cole can? Okay, great. Okay, wonderful. Okay, well, I'll move through. I don't know if somebody could maybe help Robert. Looks like he might be having some technical difficulties as well. Okay, great.
We'll help out.
Thank you. If you can advance to the next slide. All right, great. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Concierge Auctions, I know we've been members of Who's Who for some time. Just as the world's finest art, antiques, other luxury goods are sold at auction, so too is luxury real estate. We were founded in 2008, have been active in real estate auctions for the last 15 or so years, and really were founded as a tool, a resource to help you, agents, sell high-end listings. And we were also founded out of the brokerage community. Our founders of Concierge Auctions came specifically from the brokerage community in Florida. And we're really starting to see around this time that it was just harder for them to sell their listings that in particularly were really unique. And so they founded Concierge Auctions to help as agents. We've continued to work with agents with every sale that we do and really focused on the high end. And I'll just add that some, when they think of auctions, they think of distressed. That is not what we do. We help clients who are really choosing to auction as a smart business decision for them. The value of time is even greater than the value of money and other things. And they're really, looking for us to help you and your agent, you as the agent and your clients to really determine a timeline of sale. So if you don't mind the next slide, Emily. So just as an overview, and then we'll get into the course outline. Actually, I guess we'll get into the course outline now. Going through, we'll go through auction basics and really also the benefits of auction. We'll go through that next slide that you just saw, an overview as well about the types of listings that are best suited for auction as you go out and source business and consider us as a tool and a resource for your own book. Also go through commissions and referrals. There are actually 5 ways that agents can earn money with us, if you will. And then go through the timeline. Our timeline of auction is relatively aggressive in that many times it can take years, upwards of years, across several agents for particular properties to sell. And we're really focused on helping you be the first agent, the agent to sell the property. And we'll go through the timeline of that. It's about a 60-day process. And then also go through our global reach. One of the biggest benefits, value propositions for you guys is our database. And we'll go over some of that and how you would be able to gain access to that. A couple of auction formats and fees for those who may not be as familiar with auction. And then going into bidder qualification. This is something that we take really seriously. We vet all of our bidders that come through and participate in the sale, because by virtue of the property going to auction, the property is sold as is, where is, without contingencies. So any of the inspections or diligence is done upfront, even before a bidder raises their paddle, or more so, taps the button to place their bid. So we'll go through what that qualification looks like. I know that's important to you as an agent. And then also go through a couple of case studies with some of your other colleagues. So starting out with the first lesson, going through just a little bit of auction basics, some of the foundation. In the real estate market, as you know, particularly today with high-end listings, so we're really looking at listings on average that are listed about 5 million and higher. I will say that we have several listings that really, depending on the market, can start at the threshold of 1.5 million, 2 million. And on upwards to last year, we sold a property that was pretty substantial and well-known called The One for about 150 million. So in those properties, though, as you know, as a real estate agent, there's limited liquidity for luxury, meaning a smaller buyer pool. Many times there aren't any comps at all for some of these listings. So when you take them on as an agent, it can be quite difficult to even know where to put the list price, what that market value is. And there may be some price reductions out there, particularly in this new transparent world of showing history of a listing. That can also be pretty difficult as an agent, because they could undermine value. People could see that as like continual price reductions doing that. And then also we know that multiple buyers just don't arrive at once. So in the auction, we're really helping you accelerate that time period. And really, if you think about taking those years, what could be of activity, and really funneling them into a very tightened time frame. So what we really see is, particularly with these listings, they're either selling quickly, and that depends on what that market, that time frame is, of course, where your market is. But let's just say on average 60 to 180 days. And for the properties that sell in this time period, they are selling for a high percentage of list price, or a relative high percentage. The challenge can be the ones that linger on market for years, and we are seeing that those sell for just a fraction of what that original ask could be. So this just is a great graphic. We have it in many of our materials. Welcome to use it, of course. Kind of thinking about when properties go on the market, and maybe in our clients' eyes, they see that as the retail price, and we know it really is in the market price. And the more you aggregate days on market, we see this threshold of price start to decrease to really what the percentage of value is. So we're really focused on helping you as an agent in that danger zone or wholesale. And again, we'll talk about really 3 scenarios of types of properties that we're finding agents, particularly today, find that our platform is the most helpful to them. So going through the next slide, again, helping do these things for auction, really maximizing value and minimizing time. Again, that would be for any of your clients, time is their most important value. Helping you expand the buyer pool. We'll talk about how we do that in a little bit, create competition, and ultimately, again, helping you sell on your client's time frame. So really, when we talk about auction, there are a couple periods in the listing cycle that we're seeing agents find use for us. So the first would be out of the gates. We're seeing more and more properties, especially when you're talking about those unique properties where there maybe aren't any comps available. We are seeing more and more clients and agents come to us directly when they list the property for sale. So never haven't been listed before, or maybe it's been a pocket listing and it's the first time that the property is going publicly to market. Announcing the auction can help drive multiple offers from the beginning. And then we're also seeing, again, towards that danger zone, as I mentioned before, timeframe to help reignite activity. So if your property's been listed for sale for some time or it hasn't received significant interest yet, we can help aggregate the activity at that time. So that brings us to the second lesson of auction benefits, and we've talked about a few of these, but particularly as a listing agent, again, with our core values of maximizing price in 60 days, driving competition, helping you expand the buyer pool. Our second core value, really our primary, it's why we were founded, is to protect agent commissions on both sides of the transaction. And in fact, we've never auctioned a property without an agent. In all of the properties we take on, we ensure there's a listing agent if there's not already one in place. And that listing agent agreement, if there is, remains intact. Our auction agreement is just an overlay to that, if you will. And then we also have our buyers have agent representation as well. So protecting agent commissions on both sides of the transaction is very important to us. It's where we come from out of the agent community, and we know how valuable agents are. So in terms of benefits, we've talked a little bit, so I'll just skip over some of these in terms of the acceleration of sale. We co-brand all of our marketing. That's no cost to you as the agent, and have a lot of our agents still do the marketing for their listings as they traditionally would do within their brokerages. And then we can help accelerate getting the auction opportunity out there. And we'll go through, I think in maybe lesson 6 or so, what that looks like from a marketing perspective, but that is a value add for agents. And then also our database and tapping into that directly. We have a global database of high net worth individuals, many who have transacted with us in the past, many who are looking for the next opportunity all over the world. Also dedicated sales support. So each of our auctions that we execute on has actually an entire auction team that's working, and that includes a marketer. We have a project manager working on it, a sales support, reaching out, engaging with clients, working with you, the listing agent, on a day-to-day basis, helping expand your pipeline of any buyers that come through. And then we'll talk about referral opportunities a little bit later in the way to earn commissions. But I will say another added benefit that we've seen some of our smartest agents working with us are, we go into a market, we help aggregate a pool of buyers. At the end of the day, though, there's only one buyer that wins the auction. So some agents have really found us as also a way to help expand their pipeline of buying opportunities. Certainly those individuals are active in the market. They've been aggregated. They're looking for their next purchase. And the auction one, may not have been the one that they ultimately won on, but they're ready to go for that next one. So that brings us into lesson 3, commissions and referrals, which is probably your top lesson in this whole course. So first and foremost is what some of this has been focused on with you as your listings representing a seller. So again, when we take on a property to auction, your listing agreement remains intact. So anytime you represent a seller at auction, when the auction closes, then the seller will pay your full commission based upon the final sale price and what your listing agreement is. So we don't touch that whatsoever. So that would be the first way, is representing a seller. The second way, let me wait for the slide to update, would be representing a bidder on the other side, which I spoke to earlier as well. And that also is the full commission based on whatever the agreement is that's in place. And so the third would be receiving a seller referral. So when a seller comes to us without a listing agent, we refer to one of our preferred agents. So again, by virtue of taking this course, then you all will be certified as a silver agent with us. And that just means that you understand auction and you'll be able to go on our website. So if a seller is unrepresented and they come to us, we then recommend that they check out the preferred agents who do understand auction on our page. Ultimately, that's up to the seller, of course, who they want to choose as a listing agent. That would then put you into bucket number 1 of earning your full commission. And so 2 more, I believe these are more on the referral side, would be receiving a buyer referral. This is what I spoke to a little bit earlier. Potential bidder comes to us without an agent. We would refer to our preferred agent, similar to the seller, because everybody being required to have agent representation. So if that buyer chooses you to represent them, then that's the referral as well. And then also referring a new listing to auction. This would be a half a point of the auction gavel price. That would be if you have a client's listing out there and the property successfully sells at auction. So this is a way that you can earn with us if you're not the listing agent, but you're referring another opportunity and helping us consign to auction, then you will be paid a referral fee. So I think we just go through a couple of examples here. I won't go through all the details, but it just shows you very high level what some of these look like. And I think the next slide shows all 5 of them that you can see here with the full commissions and the split and the referral fee. And this is based off of a $5 million example. So properties best suited for auction, and we have some high level, and then as I mentioned before, going through the 3 types of properties where we've particularly recently found agents finding our platform most helpful to help them out with. So the first would be, I mentioned this earlier, valued at about 2.5 to $1 million plus. This again depends on the market. If we're in New York, that's 15 to 20 million. If you're in California, depending on which pockets, 3 to 5 million plus. Texas, 2.5 million plus. Really depends on where the market is, what that threshold of luxury is, but that's a typical price range of the valuation. And then also if the seller's already familiar with auction, starting at the top of the deck on, if the seller's familiar with art auctions or antiquity auctions or automobile auctions, they generally know how the auction process works. And so we do see a lot of sellers come to us to sell their real estate in the same way that they would sell or buy other assets similarly. And then if it's a premier or one-of-a-kind property, we'll talk about this in an example on one of the next slides, but a property that's very unique, doesn't have as many comparables in the market. And again, if a property's never been listed for sale or it's been listed 6 or plus months. So these 3 scenarios that I alluded to earlier, going through, the first would be, this is an example of a property that we just sold a few weeks ago. It was formerly owned by First Lady Jackie Kennedy Onassis, very well-known property, really good market in Washington, D.C. So, but this is an example of it had just sat for quite a while, a longer listing, and the client just got impatient with waiting on the market. So we took it to auction, and I believe within a 40 to 60 day period sold it. So the first scenario is really good market, great property, and it's just been listed longer than that danger zone. The second scenario would be something that's undifferentiated. So a lot of inventory. This is an example of one also from just a few weeks ago that we sold in Miami, Florida. Great market, popping, full of luxury. And at the same time, that also can be a catch-22 to some of these listings, as you know. So this one just had a lot of resale condo inventory in it, and auction helped then make it different than the other listings. And so the last scenario would be that one that's really unique. It also could be a very unique location, not just the property itself. This is an example of one also from a few weeks ago that we've sold in Columbia Island in New Rochelle, New York. The client's really happy. They've been trying to sell for some time, and they really valued, again, time more than price, more than other factors. So this is one where it's one of those where it, in many ways, is the only way to sell, if you will. And the client, again, placing extremely high value on being liquid. And this is one where we'll go over in a minute, by virtue of our process, being able to define, that the property is absolutely selling in this very short time frame, and then be sure that we're introducing it to a global audience and bringing all bidders to the table, all offers to the table at one date at one time. It was really helpful for this one. So going into the timeline, I think I've mentioned accelerated more than a few times. First and foremost, when you take a property for us, these are the steps. So if you have a listing that you think your client would be interested in, the first thing that we would do is pair you up with one of our business developers. They're located all around the world and are very attuned and knowledgeable about your market. And so they would take a look at a few different criteria that we do. This is like pre-underwriting, if you will, going through an analysis of the location, taking a look at the aesthetics of the property itself, broker partnership, what that looks like with you as the listing agent, your familiarity with auction, and then ultimately, this is the last one here, but frankly, the number one, and what we look at is the seller disposition. Why are they looking to sell? What is their what do they see as the biggest success value coming out of auction? And then a couple more steps, we'll prepare a proposal that just basically shows the timing and what we're going to do to aggregate the market, and then enter into the auction agreement. And again, that is the overlay, if you will, to the listing agreement. So going through, just looking visually at this timeline and what takes place, we just went through the pre-steps of the signed agreement, but we're all signed up and we're ready to go to auction. It'll go into underwriting with our team, and there's a number of additional criteria for that. Once underwriting is approved, it's about a 2-week time frame for our marketing team and sales to get prepared. And this is really where, you know, we work out the plan with you, the listing agent, gather all of the assets that you've had before for the listing. Many times we'll update those assets, get the marketing materials ready. And really what we want to do is come up with the plan in place before we ever announce that the property is going to auction. That's going to happen on one set day. Everything again is prepared in advance. I kind of equate it to a light switch, turning the light switch on. Up until this point, it's mute that the property is going to auction. On launch day is when we announce to the market. So that's when the listing agent, your auction signage would go up, press would start. If we've done an exclusive, that would come out on that day. The property is launched on our website. We send it out to our database members. All of the initial activity happens on that one day. And then really we're looking at a 5-week timeline of exposing the listing to market. The first 3 weeks after we launch globally is really focused on what we call early bidder aggregation, which would be really centered around our database. Those members who are looking for the next opportunity, and really starting to get them to go ahead and register and be open the bidding. And then we have what's called a pre-auction call. So particularly for no reserve auctions, and we'll go through that format in a minute, we will meet with you, the agent, the seller, and we'll go through a lineup of all of the starting bids, any bidders that have already registered for the auction. The seller then will have 48 hours to decide whether they want to open the auction based on that. And that's really, if you think about it, in a no reserve auction, that's where there's no set price for bidding to start. Bidding will start wherever the bidding starts. This in a way sets the reserve, the floor for the seller, because they know going into the auction, I'm going to agree to open it. And then the lowest price that I could achieve is that highest starting bid, because bids are only likely to go up from there. So that we do find that helps the sellers, helps establish market value. At that point in time, we've done the global aggregation and we're hearing from bidders where they see value. And that's where they're starting to see value. Then bidding will open, and we'll keep it open for a period of 2 weeks. For our friends that are in the US, the MLS will be adjusted to that highest starting bid amount, and that really helps re-aggregate the local market. Particularly for some of these listings where the list price can be more subjective, or there aren't as many comparables out there to know what the market value is. Adjusting the MLS price really helps aggregate. So, you start to see where some of that early intel is coming from. And then from there, we'll keep the bidding open for a 2-week period, and it will close on one day. And then it's about anywhere from a week to 30 days closing process. So going into global reach, and I mean, you guys being agents with LRE, by virtue of that, you're already top agents in your market, likely doing a really great job of marketing and aggregating globally. But just to show you a little bit of what we will also help do to get the listing out there about auction, if you don't mind going to the next slide. At the end of that 5-week exposure period, you'll really see the bidding activity, bidders start to be aggregated from 3 different buckets. The first would be new buyer prospects. That's all the new marketing of the auction. I like to say auction spurs action many times. That's really new buyers who maybe had never even heard about the property or listing before. A third is going to come from local exposure. We have seen neighbors step up and buy the property, or others who have seen the property years ago. This is that action where, again, it's putting a defined date of time where if somebody doesn't get in now, they're not going to be able to get in. The property is absolutely selling. So we see a third coming from local exposure. And then we see a third coming from our database. We'll get in some more details on that in a minute. But again, that's that 2-week period of early database bidder aggregation. So this just puts those more into the funnel of what you would see as the agent, the activity within that 5 weeks of exposure period. About 1 million eyeballs from our database reach, the other more mass marketing that's taking place. And really the metrics that we want to hit are generating about 200 to 400 auction prospects. These are individuals who have come through from the marketing, from our sales outreach, who are interested in learning more about the property. And really, we like to then see 25 to 50 showings. This depends on the market. It depends on the type of property. If it's a ranch with hundreds of acres, we may see fewer showings. If it's that Miami condo I just mentioned, you may see more. But generally speaking, we want to be able to get 25 to 50 feet through the door. And then that you're looking at an average of 3 to 5 bidders to find the one winning bidder. So going through just marketing, and I'll just touch on this because this is all similar strategy to what many of you, all of you are doing as already, would be aggregating additional eyes. That's that third bucket of new bidders, new buyer interest, just by virtue of marketing. And so if you look at your listing in the middle, we really focus on 4 efforts. We really try to take we say a multi-attributional approach. So anything from social, shared media, MLS, which is more traditional, any of our collateral, direct mailing, paid ads, press release, the whole gamut. Want to make sure that we're reaching all of the channels for our target markets, and that we're creating these coincidental marketing moments where somebody may see in print an article being written, and then they receive an email, and then they see it on their social media account as well. So going into auction format and fees, you're probably asking, can there be a reserve or a set price on an auction? And then what does it cost? So really with auctions, there are 2 different formats. No reserve, which I talked about earlier, or you hear it called without reserve, or you can hear it as an absolute auction, or some other terms people use. But it basically means there is no price point that's established to open the auction. There's no floor. The property is being sold for whatever price bidders, then the winning bidder submits. And then there's also with reserve, and this can be published or unpublished. If it's a published reserve, then you'll see it out there. More often than not, it's listed for 20 million. The reserve might be 12.5. And that is something where there is a floor that the seller has established, and the starting bids have to come in at that floor higher in order for the auction to open. And then some of the questions that we get asked is, what happens if a buyer wants to purchase the property before the auction? We are really focused on generating that competition and that activity. So we will not have pre-auction offers be accepted once a property is being announced for auction. But what we do have that many of our selling clients take advantage of is our buy now option. So if you think about similar to eBay has a buy it now, there can be a price that the seller can put out there that the property could trade prior to the auction, but it has to meet that buy now price in order to do so. So in terms of the fee structure, we don't charge any seller fees. There are no marketing fees for somebody in advance of a property going to auction. And as I mentioned before, the commissions, the listing and buyer agents commissions are earned according to listing agreement. We don't touch that. That remains in place. And then this is something that you may not be familiar with. For our no reserve auctions, we do offer what's called a starting bid incentive. So basically, that's a credit that would be paid to the winning bidder based on what their starting bid amount is. And this really helps encourage bidders to come forward with what their starting bid's going to be before the auction. So more specifically, the buyer in our auctions pays a 12% premium on top of the high bid. That covers our fee, the marketing cost, what have you. If the buyer submits, let's say, a starting bid before the auction opens, and they end up being the winning bidder, then we will credit them back up to 50% of that 12% buyer premium. So that also helps give the seller, the listing agent, a little bit of ease, if you will, more insight into where bidders are seeing value, where the auction is going to be open, and then again establishes that guarantee of the highest starting bid to the seller before bidding opens. And then title and taxes are the same as in a traditional transaction. So going into bidder qualification, we really require, there's 3 steps to register to bid in one of our auctions. If you don't mind going to the next slide. The first would be completing our terms and conditions. So every auction has the paperwork about the auction that they're signing to. It's relatively easy to complete and fill out. And then the second would be to provide proof of funds from a bank or financial institution. We want to be sure that all of our bidders are vetted, that they're verified with the ability to purchase at the end of the day. Because again, if you're the winning bidder on the auction, you now have that property. All of the title, all the inspection, any diligence is done up front. So the property trades again as is, where is, no contingencies. And then at the close of bidding, the winning bidder signs the contract and posts a non-refundable deposit. That's typically $150,000, and then the closing is within 1 to 4 weeks. And I think this is, I went through that really quickly, wrapping up with a few case studies of some of your colleagues. And I'll just mention, as Emily pulls up the first one here, that all of our prior sales are on our website. You're welcome to go and look at those at any given time. We're very much about transparency. So at the close, we had two auctions, in fact, this morning, and within minutes, they post to our past sales. So you can go and look at those and search for your market and see similar case studies. So this is one with a longtime friend of ours, Billy Long, with Ranch Marketing Associates. He's in the Aspen area. This is one of his listings that was listed for $23 million. And in just the 4 to 5 week auction prospects, we generated over 900 prospects and ultimately had 6 bidders competing for this one. And I think we might have 2 more. The next would be from Canada, Barry Cohen. And this is one that was listed close to 22 million, and we ended up with over 400 prospects for the auction. And then I think the last one is Costa Rica, to show a little bit of the global scale. We've done, I believe, a few deals with Todd Cutter. This is one that was listed just shy of 2 million and had over 1,500 prospects. So I think you can see here just the variance in the number, and a lot of it's based on, is it a local market? Is it a resort market? Looking at the type of property as well. But I think this is a good selection to show you the range, particularly of value. And I think that's the end of the technical deck, Megan, that we have. I do know that if there may be some questions, I don't know if there's an email, Emily, that everybody can send those to, but more than happy, or if you have listings or you'd like additional information, I can make sure that you get in touch with one of our regional business developers in your area, many who you may already know, and they can help with any additional Q&A that you might have.
Thank you, Crystal. I think that all of our participants have access to the chat at this point. So if you do have questions, feel free to put them into the chat. We did have one question. Will we receive a copy of the slides? Are we able to distribute that? Yeah.
Yeah, happy to distribute that. And I believe a follow-up email may be going out also about the preferred agent program, and to get your headshot, to get your bio, so we can make sure that you're on. Yes, that's correct. To make sure that you're on our website.
And then conciergeauctions.com is just the website we want to give to people. Is there anything else that we want to share with them? Any other links that we would like to share with them? And I can drop those into the chat.
Sure. On that website, there is become a preferred agent with us. There's some more information there if you have, if you want to read through any of that additionally. And then there's also information for your clients on our website, but everything would be there, Megan.
Great. Checking the chat here. Sometimes you just want to scroll through just in case anybody hits something in the middle there.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing, and I'm usually better about checking chat in between, and I didn't do that today. So
well, we didn't have many during your presentation, which is good because I think people were following along very carefully. Good. Any last questions? Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for the participation. And Crystal and Emily, thank you so much for sharing with us. Any final words from you?
No, just thank you guys. We have really valued our partnership over the years. I know that we're going to be in person at many events that you have, all of your conferences. So we just look forward to getting to know all of you better and hearing about what your needs are and how we can help.
Well, thank you so much. And I do have to say, yes, absolutely. We've loved having you at our events. And I think it's been really helpful to continue the education process about auctions and how easily our broker members can partner with you. So I appreciate the presentation. Thank you so much. Thanks to our team and to your team for putting this together. And thank you, everyone. Look forward to connecting with you over email.
Sounds
Thank you
great.
so much.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.